Welcome. Welcome to everyone for this fifth bi-weekly update on Myanmar, what's happening in Myanmar. We are very proud to be collaborating with the Irrawaddy and have Aung Zaw, the chef editor and founder of the Irrawaddy, talking with us already for more than 2 months about what is happening. And every week there is something new. Sometime more optimistic tones, sometime maybe today will be a little bit more depressing tone, but let's see what he has to say. Please, Aung Zaw. You need to unmute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me again. Yes, a little bit depressing, but in spite of all these depressing stories and news, I must keep updating you what is happening, what could happen in the future. So today I decided to talk to you about how strong the military regime in Burma is, as well as the movement, the resilience, the anger and anxiety, the movement which is now seems to be shrinking, moving towards more of resistant movement inside the country. So first of all, I would like to start with the how strong is the military. As I think whenever we talk about the outside intervention, R2P and the UN, ASEAN and China and the US and sanctions, I think these pressure from outside are always been important, but I think the change must come from within. That's I always believe. Even in 2010 and 2011 and 2012, we have seen that change came from within. There are the outside forces and outside pressures and sanctions play a part, which is very important as well. But when the regime leaders and as well as opposition, the people, when they felt that it was a time, when the military, who has absolute power in the country, when they felt that they have to open up the country, and they did open up the country. So I think we have to look at one of the strongest institution in the country, which is the military. Second strongest institution in our country is the monks, the Sangha institution. So we have a two stronger institution in the country. So we today I would like to share a few of my thoughts, my finding about how strong is the military since the military coup. And because we talked to some of the ex-soldiers and some of the soldiers who also joined the civil disobedience movement. And we spoke to them, we try and analyze their thinking process, why they made such a decision, when they reached such a decision to join the CDM movement, or why they left the army, the condition within the military. So that's where I find a few points here I would like to share with you. Which first one I want to say that the family members of soldiers live in the compounds and the barracks. They feel like they are slaves, or they feel like they are trapped. First thing I found it. Second is since the military coup, there are more restrictions imposed on the family members of the military and soldiers, and they are not allowed to leave. And if they want to leave, they need permission. And soldiers, they can't refuse the orders. Of course, they cannot refuse the order if you are ordered to shoot, arrest, detain, and beat, and they have to obey the orders. And even though they know that what they are doing is wrong, their families and children will be in trouble if they refuse to do so, if they do something against the order, or if they decided to defect. That's the most fear they have. So there's a fear that if they started to disobey the order, and they will have a lot of problems, and their family members as well. And there is also directive within the military, particularly since the military coup, that you don't talk to the strangers. You stay within the barracks, and you don't listen to the radio, except the state-owned radio stations. And this is also a new restriction imposed on the military soldiers. And also, before they go out the streets to restore the law and order, which means to crush the demonstrators, and soldiers are told, those who are on the streets are rioters. They are destructive elements. They're trying to destroy the country. They're trying to destroy the schools and the houses and hospitals, and they're trying to, bring down the government, so on and so forth. All the propaganda is being incited and injected to among the soldiers. And also another thing I found is interesting is drug abuse among the soldiers on the rise. And often the stimulant drugs and the pills and alcohols are intentionally distributed among the soldiers. Either they are on the front line, or if they are out on the streets in Yangon or Mandalay or anywhere in part of the country, to maintain the law and order, which means to crush the demonstrators or to arrest the activists. And the army actually dictates, even in the household, in the barracks, the army dictates what soldiers wear or say or believe, even the political symbols, like a picture of the Aung San Suu Kyi or the NLD party, any kind of political statement or political symbols are not allowed to hang on the walls inside their houses. That's how the control is very strict in the barracks. And also officers themselves also monitor the Facebook postings by the soldiers and family members. And they are not allowed to use the social media, and they are told to refrain or limit the use of the social media and Facebook postings. Most of the soldiers I spoke to and we spoke to last 3 months since the military coup, they said that they feel like they are slaves to their superior officers. The propaganda inside the army is that they are the ones to protect the nation, the religion, which is Buddhism, and they always been told that foreigners are dangerous, meaning that Westerners are dangerous. And at the same time, the senior officer, the major general level, brigadier general level, and top levels, they are very wealthy. They have owned houses, lands, they have control economic power, they have opened up their businesses, they have a lot of financial controls. If not billionaires, a lot of military leaders at the top levels and millionaires level. They can rent their own private jets, flying to Singapore or Malaysia or Bangkok for shopping. They are that wealthy. But the ordinary soldiers earn less than $200 per month. And even the coup maker, General Min Aung Hlaing, has its own health insurance, a life insurance company. It's called Myint, which is the soldiers and officer. They have to sign up. They have to buy the life insurance. It's a mandatory. So this is how the military try to control their own people, their own soldiers. There's also two military biggest companies, MEC and MEHLs. There's all mandatory payment. Each and every soldier, they have to pay to the military companies. They all converted into the shares and return, and soldier receive the dividend every year. So once you enroll in the army, it is difficult. It's like in a trap. It is difficult to leave the army. But there are hundreds of soldiers leaving since the military coup. It also makes a lot of difficult for the military leaders to have a recruitment plan because of in the past or 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Myanmar Army was able to recruit a lot of young soldiers to do the military. But these days, we've been told that it's getting very, very difficult. Actually, we spoke to some of the soldiers, and also the Radio Free Asia also spoke to some of the defectors. And I want to share some of the remarks that what they have said. And one of the questions they asked to the soldiers who defected, the question is, what do you know about the work of a military leader, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, and other military leaders? The answer is, we saw reports about their background recently. We found out that their daughters own hospitals. I knew they were rich, but I don't know how much they owned. We only found out from online reports recently that how much they own and how rich they are. How could he own that much with an official monthly salary of 5 million kyat, which is about $3,000 per month? Even if he were to starve himself for a whole month or whole year or whole life, there is no way he could be so wealthy on that kind of salary. So you can see that how much money and how much fortune that the top leaders are making, every day and every month and every year. And that's why you can see that those greedy military, they don't want to give up the power. And also another question we ask is, are there others in the military who would like to defect? The answer is, most soldiers feel that they want to leave. There are some people who cannot leave even though they know things are so bad, because they have families, they have to stay because you cannot live as a family. Many are aware of what is going on, and everyone knows that what they are doing is wrong. There are so many inside the military just waiting for an opportunity to leave. But it is too difficult for us this right now. And another question we ask to the military defector, and about his feeling of why he left the army. And he told us that he was so proud when he joined the army, wearing the uniform. But he said today, we have seen the military bullying the people. For example, when something happens, they arrest all the people nearby and then beat them if they cannot confirm who did it. We feel very sorry to see people beaten like that. We didn't take part in torture. We didn't beat people. But when we are in uniform, people just look at us with disgust. We can no longer stand that. That is why we joined the CDM movement. So these are the few, remarks that just to share that the feeling and desperation among the military. I mean, this is how the soldiers feel, because of the observer inside and outside, foreign observer alike, keep asking why the military cannot crack, and why they can't disintegrate, and why they can stick to each other, one command, one blood, and one order. So like they stick to each other. Why they stay hold on the power? This is really important. Whoever trying to break the door and trying to find a solution, an answer in our country. And it's important to look at the military. And also, I would like to share that, like last 10 years, the military, I mean, they have a very sweet deal with the transition. Actually, they have a 25% in the parliament. They have a control over the 3 key ministries. And they have control over the economy, and they have autonomy over the military budget. The NLD government did not dare to question. Actually, it is a sweet deal they had the last 10 years. In fact, if they want to continue on this track, Myanmar or Burma will open up more next 10 years, next 5 to 10 years, and more open up, and military will have its own place. I mean, we have a graceful exist, as well as Myanmar will be open up. But whatever we have seen for the last 10 years, since 2010, 2011 to now 2021, all gone, all washed away within 100 days. That is very sad. If you look at it, whatever we have built, slow or fast or fragile transition, whatever we call it for last 10 years, it's all gone in 100 days, last 100 days with the military coup, because they are so greedy. They are not happy with the 25%. They want to take back the whole 100% back to their own hands. But now it's so difficult for us, for everyone to rebuild and to start from scratch. I think that is a message I want to share with you. You know, like whoever wanted to help from inside, outside, this is something we have to think about it. You know, whatever we have done for the last 10 years to try to rebuild and open up, even some military, moderate-minded military leaders who were part of the political opening, I think they felt very sorry for this state of affair, what is happening now. So this is the first part I want to share, and the second part is I want to share about the how strong the movement is. You know, how the people, the feelings, the anger, and the despair, and the distress, and the sadness, and hopelessness, and the pain and anxiety, because the last 100 days, over 100 days, since we heard the news of military coup, and everyone's had so much feeling of anger and despair. But also more when we saw that people are being gunned down on the streets, and there are a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and in spite of all this, what is remarkable is people remain strong and very determined, and more importantly, very resilient. Because you can see that whenever I talk to my staff who recently fled Burma, or whoever I spoke to inside the country, businessmen or ordinary people, or a driver or waiter or waitresses, or government workers, or those who have lost their jobs, whoever we try to speak to, I think they are very determined, and they don't want to even hear the word mediation, which is strange, because in 1988 onward, inside and outside forces trying to mediate between the two forces, which is one led by the NLD and Aung San Suu Kyi forces, and the other was the regime forces. I think the dialogue and mediation are the key words for the last 20 years. Everybody talk about it. And today, if you talk about, we have to mediate, we have to have a dialogue, we have to open a channel to talk and communicate each other, to find a common ground. And then you will be labeled as a traitor, because of people from both sides, even from the movement side or from resistance sides. They don't want to talk about the mediation. They don't want to talk about it anymore, even though they may not have anything. They don't have a gun, so they may not have anything, but they feel very determined that this time they have to win, and the other side must be fail and collapse or overthrown. And this is the feeling that I observe these. And also, I think trauma. I think that dealing with the trauma is not like a walk in the park. You know, it's difficult. And also, there are good days, there are bad days. You know, and in the bad days, it can take you to the edge, but resilience also can always take you back to embrace the life. So sometimes the help comes from inside, sometimes the help from outside is necessary to keep things going. So that's why I think inside the people in Myanmar, I think people in Burma have shown their spirits and their resilience in the face of the violent suppression by the military. And they are very determined, no matter what. I think my understanding as a journalist is that they are very determined to continue their revolt, their opposition against the military. I think people have a very experienced very collective trauma, but also they have a tremendous amount of resilience. And I think that's why I think that I want to say that the world need to stand by them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aung Zaw, with two very important comments. One on the strength of the military, why they stick together, and the other one on the resilience of the movement. And maybe in the question that will come, we can talk about whether the movement seems abandoned by the international community or not at this point on history, especially also with the upcoming of the Palestine on the more global attention point, and whether Myanmar is still of concern to the international community. Now, I open the floor for a question. Like in the past, we can take 3 questions at a time. So please, you can write it or just put the sign of your hand, the small symbol of the hand, and then you can we will unmute you and you can ask directly whatever you prefer. Anyone? Okay, so I think there is a question from John Smith, an old friend. Are there any sign of division, defection among middle or senior military, or are they mainly the lower ranks? I have also Anne, Tessa.
Yes, thank you. Actually, John just asked pretty much the same question that I had about what, what's the situation as far as the senior military personnel are concerned? What are anything about their views on what's been happening and the response of the population to the coup?
Yeah, so among the leaders, any sign among them, or middle higher cadre?
I think I don't want to speculate, but I don't see any cracking signs in the mid or high ranking, because of, as I said earlier, they are so wealthy, and the one who are moderate and the one who are known to be sitting on the fence, or the ones who are not aligned with the Min Aung Hlaing plan, they've been shunted, they've been removed, they've been sidelined, even before the coup. For instance, the defense minister, General Min, who was known to be very moderate, who used to work with Aung San Suu Kyi, he was slowly and gently being sidelined. So this is one example. So, and also second is, I want to share some of my thought and my knowledge, which is quite interesting, because as a journalist, when we were inside the country, we also had a chance to talk to a lot of mid-ranking or retired senior military officers, because I always want to know about, want to interview Min Aung Hlaing, and I don't have a chance. I didn't have a chance, but my gathering, my thought is he and his wife here. Some may be offended to hear that the wives in Myanmar and Myanmar military circle is very important. They play a very important role. They're very influential. So Min Aung Hlaing and his family, they're very much business-minded people. Even compared to the former military regime leaders like Tan Shui or Mao A, I think they are much more sophisticated. they're much more cosmopolitan, much more, I think, would like to see the country. I think because he always come to Thailand and other countries, and I've been told that he really admire. I mean, I have to now talk openly, and people listening to me, that he really admired the former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra and his business model. I was told by one of his mid-ranking military officer who knows Min Aung Hlaing very well. So that was quite interesting to me because of, Min Aung Hlaing was known to be very close to current Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, and also he was known to be admirer of the ousted Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. I think he admired the business model, I think, which is quite scary anyway. So I think so you can see that how the Min Aung Hlaing and his wife and his family are thinking, which I'm being told that we don't have any how to call it exact figure yet. He's already a billionaire. This is not pure speculation. That the investment in the service sector, investment in hotels and hospitals. Recently, he opened 2 businesses in Yangon, one in Yangon and one in Mandalay. And I think they really see that because of Myanmar is a very resource, rich country, and they don't want to give it away to anyone or NLD or Aung San Suu Kyi, and they want to manage and control it. I think this is one of the driving forces that they felt that they have to retake control of the economy and the country. So this is quite scary, that because they have a lot of long-term plan to remain and stay in power. And even yesterday, when I talked to one of the affluent, very well-connected business tycoon, yesterday I spoke to him because a lot of businessmen inside the country, as you know, that everywhere they have a very good connection with the military. And I heard that the coup makers and his team, even though they are small, they're very determined to stay in power. And they are printing the money. We don't know where the papers they are getting from. Which is the money amount equivalent to more than $1 billion. And they're going to inject the cash into the system. That's how they're trying to. Obama may be becoming more like a North Korea, whatever it is. But they're trying to maintain and remain in power. And so, which is, I think, whatever the rumors are crack or division at the top rank, I will treat it very carefully and with great caution. I think they stick to each other because of when they start to split, they will be hanged, or else they will lose their wealth. That's why there's a fear that they stick to each other, I think.
I have now too many questions, so let's try. Okay, we'll start with the end. Anshuman.
Good afternoon, ma'am and sir. Sir, I had a question related to this only, that what was the COVID situation effect on the COVID situation during this after 1st February 2021, like because the second wave had came in September in Myanmar, if I'm not wrong, because I had contacted one of my Myanmar friend. So he told about me that it was the second wave had came in September, COVID. So what it effect on the like how it like I'm trying to say that what was the COVID situation after the first February 2021?
Okay, thank you. Very important question, because also it's implication with the neighboring country, not only for the health of people in Myanmar. But let me take 2 more questions. The second question is, can you expand on the decrease in violence, revenge killings, bombings? This is the question, and I would add also whether there are changes in the kind of violence that is being committed. We noted the last time less killing, but more imprisonment of people, more kidnapping and others. So, but that is my own addition to the question. The question is more about decrease or decrease or increase. Elaborate more on this. Another question is, what is your take on the delayed votes at the UN General Assembly on the arms embargo to Myanmar? And the last question for this round about, is there any sign that there is covert assistance going to the civil disobedience movement, or in terms of relief, food and aid to people? Is international assistance able to go into Myanmar? And if so, what kind?
I think all questions are good.
As usual.
As usual. As usual. That's why I like this crowd. And so I think COVID, I think there's a sign of third wave is coming to Myanmar. That's what we worry. I think it's a very good question. And that should be, we all should be worried. And because of the regime is unprepared. Under Aung San Suu Kyi administration, there are a lot of misstep. There are a lot of criticism towards that. But at the same time, whenever we spoke to people today about the COVID situation, and they can immediately compare now and then. And last year, they got a food ration. They got a promise of injection, COVID vaccine, I mean, and they got a daily information, accurate information provided by the government, and rice and other essential items are being provided to each households. And also there are a lot of rich Burmese or Myanmar people, citizens are willing to help. They come out voluntarily to help the regime. To help the government, because they know the government needs more budget. So a lot of people voluntarily came out to help. They opened a lot of centers to distribute food items and a mask, and information is very correct. But now is as physicians are being thrown into prisons and join the CDM movement. And if this time, if there's a third wave, and we will have a very catastrophic situation, I would say that it will be very depressing to see. And also, I think Myanmar citizens are already very worried because they don't have a faith in the healthcare system in the country, and more to do so with this regime, and they will be more worried. And then you can see that in the newspaper, in the state-run newspaper, and there are propaganda news and photographs of some of the senior monks getting an injection, a vaccine. But even my colleagues are joking that if they come to give us an injection, I don't dare to take it, she said. I asked why. She said they will give us just a rainwater. They won't give us actual. They won't give us actual, COVID vaccine to us. I won't trust this regime, this authority. So this is how the people have distrustful towards the regime. So there will be less and less collaboration. That's very sad. So increased violence. Second question. I think there's a more targeted killings. You can see that last 2 weeks, and a lot of low-ranking or mid-ranking ward officials work in the in a township level. They've been targeted and being assassinated, and there are a lot of explosions taking place in everywhere. Like even last night, there were bombs exploded in about 10 times in Yangon, about 10 or 20 times in other parts of the country. But that is, as far as internet is available, that's where we gather information. I think there are a lot of bombings, a lot of attacks, targeted killing, sadly, taking place inside the country. And also I heard that I want to share with you that also the regime side also prepared to counter the forces to they finance forces called a Pew Sortie, a group. That group is to counter the resistant forces. So I think they will be armed. They will be given the financial assistance to counter those youth and resistant forces and people defense forces who also take up the arms training, explosive trainings from the border areas, and who penetrated back into the interior of the country. And they already started attacking some of the targets. So you can see that last 2 weeks, there's increased violence. And I can say that there will be more violence will spread. If you look at the Myint, because of Leah also mentioned it before our talk, the Chin Defense Forces, there are over 10,000 displaced people. I think I expect that there will be more armed clashes going to take place. I'm also afraid to say that this sort of similar armed clashes could really inspire some forces. I don't know where or how or who yet, but I think will inspire other forces in unknown forces inside the country, particularly in the ethnic region close to the Burman territory. So I think that kind of violence and clashes could take place not only in the Myint in Chin State, southern Chin State, but also can spread to the other parts of the country. And as the last 2 or 3 weeks, we see that in the Burman heartland, which is we have never seen it in the past, that there are 3 air bases being attacked by the so-called terrorist groups. So I think there are groups inside the interior of the country where they are started targeting the military targets like air bases, like Dongwu Air Base and Magui Air Base, and also Meitila Air Base. So the 3 major air bases are targeted last 3 or 4 weeks ago, which is quite astonishing to see that, because if we cover the ethnic conflict and conflict in the country, and I think the ethnic forces are unable to penetrate or infiltrate inside the interior of the country. But this time, for the first time in decades, I think some forces, I assume that these are related to the resistant forces of PDF, People Defense Forces. They have a chance to go inside because they are from inside the country. They have arms. Now they have the trainings. They started attacking the military bases and military air bases, which is quite interesting. The third question is about delayed.
Yeah, what is your thinking about the delayed vote, which has been postponed indefinitely at the moment, about the arms embargo to Myanmar that was going to be proposed to the UN General Assembly?
Well, you can see that I think if the arms embargo is going to take place, will be fantastic news. But you can see that yesterday and today, I think there's a big delegation from the regime. Air Force chief flew to Russia. I think they are going to bring the 20 mega projects. We don't know yet, definitely, but there will be more. They buy more arms and more military hardware. Maybe they worry about the arms embargo, and that's when they're going to stockpile more arms and more ammunition from Russia. Definitely. And also you can ask a question where the money come from. I'm sure they have enough money, enough resources, enough budget to buy more arms from Russia and other trade deal with Russia. So which means they are already stockpiling these arms and weapons and military hardware to deal with the forces inside and outside. So in terms of this delay, you can see not only the arms embargo delay, but also the failure of the international system. If ASEAN or UN or if anyone or US, if they couldn't do anything to force the regime to make some concession to reverse the course, this is a test that the whole international system it failed. If you look at Israel-Palestine, if you look at the Myanmar case, I think that this is how the UN is becoming a completely useless, toothless tigers. So this is a sad part. I don't want to comment further on that. And the fourth question is CDM assistance, right? Am I right?
Yeah, is any covert assistance, international assistance funneled into the country, which is for CDM or for other purpose to relieve assistance for food and other kind of aid?
Yeah. I think the question is good, important, because I think CDM was very successful, and the military is afraid of CDM movement, and that's why they try to arrest a lot of CDM leaders and then trying to crash the CDM movement. And also CDM movement was sustained for last 2 months because of they got a assistance and a help from the inside and outside forces. I mean, assistant, sorry. The tycoons and wealthy Burmese, they go out to help. But those wealthy Burmese, now even, for instance, their kids, their children are being now detained, arrested by the military regime, which is kind of putting pressure on the parents, because the parents are spending maybe $10,000 each one. If they spend $10,000, $20,000 to support the CDM movement, if there are 100 rich Burmese pouring this amount of money, that means that can sustain quite a number of CDM people inside the country to sustain the movement. But now it seems to me that the funding assistance being shifted to other areas, or maybe to NUG or other parts of the important factor. And the CDM movement, I heard, as far as I understand, have received less and less assistance. And I meaning that CDM movement is getting weaker.
Okay, and in terms of relief, more assistance, there is a lot of emergency situation, but are people able to get food and to get other support?
Yes, I think that's why I think one of the 5 points by ASEAN ask is humanitarian assistance. I think some people may not think this is important, but I think as the country is becoming more and more economically, as countries becoming more catastrophic situation, as becoming a state failure situation we are facing, I think the humanitarian need and the emergency help, emergency assistance are needed. If you look at the Myint alone, if you look at the Karen state alone, there are thousands of people fleeing because of the fightings. I think they need help. But also I think because of economic issues, economic problems, a lot of people have lost jobs. So where can they get a job? Where can they get the food in the long run? That's why I think this is going to be a big issue, and how the assistance can be channeled, those needed, how the regime is going to be more open to get assistance from outside. I don't know how the UN or other agency could try to find a way to deliver assistance from a much more unconventional way, maybe not a conventional channel, but a conventional way to reach out to those needy. I think it's going to be very important. It's much more innovative and much more creative, I think, because in the past, when the country was so closed, we have call it a cross-border assistance. And so from this border with the Thailand and Burma, I think there are a lot of, medical assistance and other help and other assistance could be delivered through the Thailand-Burma channel, and also as well as from the India-Burma channel. So maybe there will be unconventional thinking also has to be applied, should be studied how to deliver the assistance to people.
Okay, so from Lisa Broughton, also a media expert on Myanmar. Any thoughts on the use of media and tech by the Tatmadaw, especially the ongoing intranet efforts and white listing? Then we have a journalist from Jakarta. My name is Wella Sherita from iNews TV, Indonesia. I will shorten our question, but basically, what are Myanmar media think about the fact of Indonesian inviting General Min Aung to the ASEAN meeting? What was the thinking of Myanmar media about the invite and about the meeting afterwards? Do you think was appropriate, inappropriate, and do you still believe ASEAN as a mechanism to solve the problem in Myanmar? Then the last question for this round, Anthony via Facebook Live is again about the ethnic militia. I think we have discussed it in previous events, but the role of ethnic militia and whether they can get together or not in supporting the civil movement.
Okay, Lisa, my friend, for last 20 years. Yes, it's you can see that we these days we are very careful our communication with the inside and outside, the way that we share information, the way that we share the materials, with the way that we share images, is getting extremely difficult. But we still get a lot of good information inside and from the country. But you can never trust the devices you're using, and you try to evade and the old system, because you know that you have to assume that someone is already reading and listening your phone, your devices, and reading your emails. So this is the first thing. So there are a lot of do's and don'ts, and people who do these exercise, or who really care less about. So that's why I think I also said it last session about how the regime conveniently sitting in their desk and looking at the Facebook pages and scroll down everyone and started to arrest everyone. So this is also very important that even in my own staff, we have to keep reminding that how they should be very careful of using the Facebook and the social media, and not to trust. But still, very difficult. Old habit die hard. They don't change much. And also, you can see recently we have report about intranet. So they were starting to limit access. Which channel you are? Burma has only one gateway. So very easy for the military, with the Russian and Chinese devices, they can easily monitor and they can easily track you down. So it's not safe for us at all. And also the telecom companies, even though they are still operating inside the country, I think they should be operating inside the country. But they've been given a lot of directive from the military side and to compromise. And we don't know the nature of operation, how the nature of operation inside has been changed. We don't know. We need to know. For instance, Telenor and Oriju. If they breach the laws, if they start to violate the rights, and then they should be held also accountable, because we don't know that their existence is important, the flow of information is important, and email, internet is our rights. At the same time, we want to know that how they are compromising with the existing authorities, and with their principles and ethics. That's very important. I think that's our concern. I think one sad thing about this, Burma has had a lot of potential as we join the fastest growing internet user and Facebook users in the last 5 years to 10 years, and mobiles and all these online businesses growing. But now it's all going back to the dark times. This is what I think is completely sad situation for us. And also I heard about the internal network is only whitelisted site, you know, so that, you know, the regime, not the blacklisted, whitelisted sites. So I think this is also things to watch, because of since, you know, Irrawaddy or Myanmar or DVB, we can no longer operate inside the country. We are now operating outside the country. It's getting extremely difficult for all of us to work inside, and our IT team, everyone is outside, and also getting very dangerous for a lot of people who are working in this area, getting very nervous, sharing the information, which drive a lot of talented people out of the country. That's all I can share. I don't have much to share openly with you, Lisa. Maybe we can talk later more on this subject, I think. There was another question?
So from a journalist from a television in Jakarta about basically your thinking about ASEAN, the invitation itself, as well as now, 1 month after. Is still valid? Do you still believe, or you ever believed in ASEAN as a mechanism to solve the problem in Myanmar? From iNews TV, Jakarta.
I think no. If I say ASEAN is a club of clowns, the people will not disagree with me. It's not insulting remark or statement I made, but ASEAN countries, if you look at Singapore, if you look at Malaysia or other countries, it's a growing economy, and their ambition for TPP and their alliance with the China and US. There are a lot of interesting story that how ASEAN sustain and work with the international players. But on Myanmar, ASEAN is a complete failure. That's what I want to say. ASEAN doesn't have enough courage. That's why ASEAN is disappointed. But I don't think we can give up on ASEAN. Anyway, I think I want to see how far ASEAN can go, and if the ASEAN fail, we can name and shame them, and the whole ASEAN population will realize that this is just a club of clowns and useless people, and who couldn't do anything. Because if you look at Singapore, if you talk about Singapore and US alliance and how Singapore hosted the Trump to have a North Korea summit with the US, and you have a lot of impressive, a talk and a political forum, and how they engage with the world leaders and Obama and all that. But ASEAN, really, last 30 years, ASEAN is always been failed to act on Myanmar, which is quite disappointing. And this time again, I think even though the feeble 5 points, ASEAN has released, my finding is the Burmese military leaders are quite reluctant to allow ASEAN to come in. And I recently found out that Burmese military said that no foreigner, even ASEAN, should come in. Even if the ASEAN wants to come in, they should come only as an observer or fact-finding mission. If they come to listen to what we are going to say, and they can come. But if they are coming to mediate, if they come in to help, or if they come in to deliver the humanitarian system, or come in to meddle in the Myanmar affairs, we shouldn't let them in. That came from the very top level military leaders who recently made a phone call to one of the ethnic leaders. So I'm pretty much convinced that even these feeble 5 points, the regime is shutting the door and they don't want to come out. They don't want ASEAN to come in. Yeah. But we have to see, you know, ASEAN is not alone because China is behind ASEAN, and then there will be China ASEAN summit coming. There will be a US ASEAN summit coming in next month, and how we see how China is going to play behind the role. I'm not saying positively or China, but we have to wait and see how China is going to push the ASEAN and what can we get out of it.
Okay, so there was, you're getting tired, but we have a few more questions.
No, I'm fine.
So there was the question about the ethnic militias and how they can get together, etc. But I will give you the last final question. Maybe you want to note it down because they are quite heavy on content. So you say that what is the situation with the economy? What has the SAC been doing to prevent a bank run or control inflation? Or maybe it's going to cause inflation if what you say that they are going to put more money into the economy. This is my own addition, the last part. Then Susan Cunningham, another journalist, you say that ordinary people, coup opponents, they are not in favor of mediation, but what also can foreign government offer? Do opponents really expect recognition of Do opponents really expect recognition of the NUG? Is this what is expected? Because if there is no mediation, then what also can be offered on the side of international community? Paul Greening is asking, what will it take for the 1 billion US, the US is old, to be released to the NUG? And the last question, this is really the last, how will the Tatmadaw and NUG respond to the various international justice initiatives? This is from Galuh Wandita, an activist in Indonesia and also working in the region. How will the Tatmadaw and NUG respond to the various international justice initiative, ICJ case, ICC, focusing on the Rohingya? Any thoughts? And thanks so much for this really good session.
Oh.
Air words, yeah, okay.
All right. I think the last question I will start to answer, it will be short because of as long as we can hold them accountable, as long as we can make them the real threat for the human rights violation, the perpetrators, what they have committed and the crimes against humanity. I think I think important. The ICC or ICJ or a new initiative. I think there's a new one. I think, and also there was a UN initiated. They are trying to find out those crimes committed since the military coup. I think we have got to make sure that these are continued, and that could really make a real threat to the unity of the top military leaders, to hold them accountable, and that's important. More important than I think the ASEAN's 5 points. I think that's important. And second question that I want to answer is ethnic forces. I think ethnic forces are still sitting on the fence. Don't be disappointed. I think that's all has always been as usual. And I want to share one of the ethnic leaders told me a few weeks ago that if you want to catch a fish, you don't want to meddle though. You don't want the water to be muddy. Also, you don't want to corrupt or damage the flower in the water. And but the point is to catch a fish. But now the ethnic leader said, we now have two fish. Two fish means the military, the NUG. So some of the ethnic leaders are just very pragmatic. They were just sitting on the fence. They were thinking of, there are two fish and which one to catch, and we can stay wait and see. And they don't want to show that they are taking side. That may be disappointing to CDM movement and then those youth and Generation Z or those who are taken up struggle. But I think that's how the situation exists now. That's a reality, I think. And it may be painful to learn it, but also I think that also shows that a lot of trust and a lot of coordination, a lot of understanding need to be built up between the Burman majority and the ethnic forces. And I think a lot of damage has been done. So at the ethnic forces this time, they want to sit on the fence and watch. And also there has been a lot of warning also to the ethnic groups from the military regime that if you are going to provide assistance, if you're going to provide a refuge, if you're going to provide a shelter or food or medication, or even the military training to those who flee to your areas, our relationship with you, between you as military and you, will be really irreparable. So this kind of warning also came from the military side. So the ethnic groups are much more pragmatic, much more careful, not to take side, but carrying some of the forces in the current state and Kachin and KIA. Obviously, there are a lot of fighting taking place. You can obviously follow the news that last 3 months, there are a lot of fighting, a lot of serious fighting, also in the northern Kachin state. So it shows that they are the only two who's sticking out their neck and they stay fighting. So which is quite interesting to say that. SAC economy, I don't know. I think economy is going to be difficult. I think the bank run and then collapse of the bank. I don't think banks are going to collapse, but I think the problem is people lost the trust in the banking system because they have no trust in the region. So that's why you can see the long queue of people every day in ATM machine in the bank. And I also had a chance to talk to a lot of executive bankers as a journalist. I'm trying to find out what's going on, and they feel despair, and then they're very depressed. They're disappointed, but they got assurance also from the military side that the banks will be sustained and banks will be rescued. I think there are a lot of cash money has been also injected to some of the banks who are in trouble. So I can see that we're trying to find out how the money has been printed over $1 billion equivalent over $1 billion I've been told that being printing, and the cash injection is coming on the way. That indicated that the regime is trying to sustain and trying to prop up the banking system. But the business and economy is in real trouble. There's nothing you can do. All's gone, all finished. That's my answer to you. What is the last question?
Yes, what you say that people are not interested in mediation. So the question is then, what can foreign government offer if not mediation? And do opponents really expect international recognition of the NUG?
I think NUG. I don't know. I don't know about NUG. I think NUG will have to learn how to walk. I think they will have a lot of more experience in the future. A lot of good, interesting people in the NUG. I'm sure that they will work hard, but I don't know. In this environment, it is very difficult environment. Sorry, my dog is barking.
It's okay.
I have to move.
It brings some voice to the table. It's okay.
Oh.
An empowered dog.
Yeah. So I think I don't know about the NUG and the performance. It's a hit and miss so far. I don't know which government is going to recognize them. There are a lot of good people in the NUG, and then they are legitimate forces, and so I think they will be parallel to the current existing structure, which is the regime SAC. So I don't know. Also about $1 billion US, which is I don't think it's going to happen. But a lot of assistance is coming on the way to the NUG and other forces. But this $1 billion is I don't think it's going to. I think it will be a long process. It will take decades. When the countries was opening up again, I think $1 billion may come, but not this time. I don't think it's going to happen overnight to the NUG. I think and ordinary people. I think mediation. Yes, I think sadly mediation at the final day. Mediation may be the way out. Maybe. But what the people are saying is they have to overthrow the regime, and they don't want to see the regime anymore. They are saying that this is the final match and the final battle, that they want to overthrow the Min Aung Hlaing regime, and they don't want to see the military again. They are that determined. That's why if you go out and talk, said that there should be a way out, and there will be a talk, and there will be a dialogue, and there will be a mediation, and people couldn't accept it. Even last week, I think there was a KNU leader, current leader. He made a statement about calling for the dialogue. He received a lot of flack. He got a lot of criticism from the people because of people thought that he shouldn't say that. There should be no mediation. That shows that, as I said earlier, in the resilience, talking about the painful, the people are going through this period. And I think this is, going to be longest, divorce between the Burmese people and the Burmese military, once in the past being loved and respected by the people of Burma. But now is Burmese feel that they are just looters and robbers of the country, and they just look at them in a disgust, and they couldn't accept them as a legitimate rulers of the country. That's how how people see it, I think.
Okay, so I think these are the perfect words to close this bi-weekly update. It's very clear the position of the people of Myanmar. The question is when the international community will listen to that. I think the voice is very clear and straightforward. It's not difficult to understand really what needs to be done. But still, unfortunately, we see ASEAN and the rest of the world not acting, or even worse, really not daring to interfere. And a comment also in the chat box, maybe ASEAN is just an old boy club looking to preserve their own interest. And if that is the situation, of course, we cannot expect much action. Once more, I stress the importance of the work of Irrawaddy and the importance, as you see, to have intelligent information and voices and understand very complex situation to be able to strategically act in our own small world. So please support independent journalists and support Irrawaddy and support Aung Zaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you. Thank you very much.
Bye.